Hello there, welcome to Gardener's World. Thanks for joining me again. On today's show, we've got a couple of authors. We've got, forgive me for this one, Oluseyi Eyitayo and John Wilding. A couple of guests. So the first guest is going to be talking about his new book, The Power of Self-Belief. So this is going to be an interesting one when we find out what the self is and then why we have to believe in it. So that's going to be interesting. And in the second half, we're going to be talking about God's unfinished business. And as you can see, it's a bit tattered because it's been read by me. And I've just got this one, so I've no idea what it's all about. Oluseyi, thank you very much for joining me,
thank you,
my friend. It's it's a pleasure to have you. Power of self-belief. Why did you write this?
For me, the power of self-belief has played a major role in my life, and I felt I had to share that message with everybody else because there are things I've learned about our belief systems, which I feel if anybody out there who is looking to achieve, it could be a career goal, it could be family goals, or anything at all that matters, you need to believe in yourself.
Everybody?
Every single person. We all are wired to want to achieve, to want to have, to want to do. But what we fail to realize sometimes is that there's a system behind those things. We have the desire, which is great, but the desire is not enough for us to get to where we need to get to, or we feel we need to get to. But we need to understand the belief systems, because that will empower us to be able to go for what we want and obviously achieve that.
Right.
And that's why I felt compelled to write the book.
So there's obviously a background for you.
Yeah.
What? Give us a brief.
Well, to begin with, initially I kind of started my career in sales and marketing, and I wanted to, I've had a dream of running my own business. But as you know, I'm sure you can relate to this. You're mad, you're crazy, what if you fail, what would happen? It's too expensive, so risky. And I asked myself a question, this is true, that could happen. I could try to start my own business and fail and, look stupid and lose everything, which is possible. But also, I can succeed. So I asked myself a question, what is it proven that I will fail, and is it proven that I will succeed? No, it hasn't been proven, and it hasn't been proven that I'll fail either. So what have I got to lose but to try? And that was my the mindset that I had to adopt, to take that.
Do you think you always had a positive
Not always.
mental attitude?
Not always.
No.
I learned that when I got involved in sales, because in sales I was working for a company whereby if I don't sell, I don't get paid. So you learn to develop positive thinking very quickly.
Okay. It was a survival instinct then?
Absolutely.
That was brought out of you?
Completely.
Because of survival?
Completely.
Right.
Yeah.
But so in childhood you probably wasn't?
I wasn't. No, I wasn't. I definitely wasn't born positive.
Really?
No.
No. Not born positive, or do you, what about your parents?
My parents obviously have always encouraged me in terms of what I want to do. It's nothing to do with my family background in a way, but as individuals, as we grow older, as we go through our journey in lives, we have experiences which would either cloud our judgment or make us think a certain way. Yeah. We might try to do something, failed, so we think, oh, I probably shouldn't try it. You just stick to what is mundane and what is common to feel safe.
There is a big element in society, isn't there, of negative kind of things. When you say to somebody, how are you? And we say, not bad. Yeah. What's a kind of a negative edge to that? What do you mean, not bad? You mean, I'm really good. Correct. Give it the positive angle. So there is that element. So you're basically saying that we need to believe in ourselves to
absolutely
positive.
Absolutely. I think ultimately the end result, we tend to focus on the end result. But what we fail to realize that by focusing on the 20%, we will achieve the 80% we're looking for. But by focusing on the 80%, we'll never get there, and we'll get frustrated. And what we just do is reinforce that same old belief that we can't do something. Right. And that is what the book teaches you about, the fundamentals behind our belief systems.
Well, before we get into how, first thing, it's got this big word on the front.
Okay.
Self.
All right.
This one here, I've asked an awful lot of people, and I do ask them, especially when they put these words on the front of their books, what the hell is the self? Right. Because a lot of people will sit there and say, well, there's so many different answers, there's really no self. We're all multi-personality kind of organisms walking around the planet. I'm part my mother, part James Bond, part whatever. All the influences that have come into us. And then you get the spiritual side. Well, I am Christ, etc. The Christ in me, Christ is all, etc. You get all kinds of different answers. What's your answer? What's your perception of what self is?
Well, self to me is very, very simple. I think you and I we're made of the same thing, really. But self to me is basically that.
So you're a robot too.
Well, yeah, that's one way to put it. That's one way to put it. Okay. But for me, self is that inner being. That inner being that lives within this image we've got in front of us, this image, this shell, what we call the human body. That is the self. And that self that creates, that's that self that talks, that's that self that thinks. That's that inner part of you that desires the things you desire for yourself and your family. But what we see in front of us, the fingers, the hands, are just the image. So we're in a box, basically, and the self lives inside that box. And that's my definition of self. And
so if I chopped your leg off, would you no longer be the self? Or would you just be 3/4 self?
Well, if I chop my leg off, I'll still be myself, but a cell living in a damaged shell.
Okay.
That's one way
so
to put
kind
it.
of the soul.
Correct. That's one way to look at it as well. But I was just trying my best not to go down the
spiritual.
Exactly, because obviously,
well, you know, it's just
everyone
language.
has different beliefs. Yep, absolutely. But for me, that is what the self is, and I feel that by understanding and getting hold of yourself and really embracing yourself, because you're complete. From the day you're born, you're complete. You just moved into a shell, which is the human body.
Right.
But we feel we need to be something because we're not complete, but we're already complete. Because the self doesn't worry about all these things. It's the body that worries about these things. Oh, I've got to have a nice hairstyle, I've got to have dress nice, look. All that. The self doesn't worry about those things because the self doesn't need those things, really and truly, you know. But because we live in a society whereby we've been conditioned to behave a certain way or want certain things to feel good about ourselves, then we ignore the inner self and we focus on the outside self, and we get that conflicting with our inner self, and that's where the dilemma is. Really.
So you're saying that we need to believe in that inner self?
Correct.
Right. And
Correct.
how do we do this?
Exploration, asking yourself questions. What really matters to you? You know, what really matters? At the end of the day, we worry about so many things.
An Aston Martin.
That's great. That's great. I love Aston Martins. You know, Aston Martin. If that's what matters to you ultimately, then
that'd be the James Bond in me. That's not the real me, surely.
But then, why do you want to be like James Bond? That's the question, isn't it?
Okay.
That's the question. Why do you want to be like James Bond? Why is you being you not good enough? What has James Bond got that you haven't got?
Excellent.
That's the question we've got to ask ourselves.
Yeah, that's good, that.
But a lot of people attach James Bond to something, oh, he's good looking, he gets all the ladies, all that. But then that's great. But if that's what you want, that's fine. You can get those things too. But you need to embrace yourself first. But it needs to be what you want, not what you think society wants you to have, so you can feel like you fit in.
Yeah.
And that's what the dilemma is.